Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the misty shadows of a forgotten tribe, a people so fierce they made even the Vikings tremble, their legacy buried in the whispers of time. Picture yourself in a rugged valley, the air sharp with pine and smoke, as you wake to the distant clang of iron and the low chant of warriors preparing for battle. This isn't just a village, it's a fortress of secrets, where every carved totem and sharpened blade tells a story of survival. Cross the wrong warrior, and you probably won't survive this tale of grit and mystery. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'd love to know where you're joining me from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake to the scent of damp earth and burning wood, your breath visible in the chilly dawn air of a village nestled in a hidden valley. The walls of your small hut are lined with firs, their musky warmth a shield against the cold seeping through the wooden slats. Outside, the world is alive. Children scamper between longhouses, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic thud of a hammer on iron. You pull on a woolen tunic, its weave rough but sturdy, and step into the morning, your boots sinking into the frost-kissed ground. This is the home of a tribe lost to history, their name erased but their legend fierce enough to haunt Viking sagas. The village is a maze of low, timbered huts circled by a palisade of sharpened logs, a defiant stand against the world beyond. You pass a group of women grinding grain, their hands steady despite the cold, and catch the eye of a warrior sharpening a blade, his gaze sharp as the steel. You're an outsider here, tolerated but watched, and you feel the weight of their scrutiny. In the 9th century, tribes like this dotted northern Europe, often clashing with Norse raiders who wrote of their ferocity in skaldic poems. These people weren't just fighters, they were a puzzle, their culture a blend of ritual and resilience that baffled even the Vikings. You pause by a fire pit, its embers glowing as an elder tosses in a sprig of herbs, the smoke curling upward in strange, deliberate patterns. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes used smoke signals not just for war but to mark sacred days, confusing enemies who thought they signaled attack. Historians still argue whether these tribes were nomadic warriors or settled defenders of hidden strongholds. You'd lean toward the latter. This valley feels too fortified, too lived in, to be a temporary camp. The elder glances at you, her eyes like flint. "You're awake, stranger," she says, voice low and gravelly. "Keep up, or you'll be left behind." You nod, a half-smile tugging at your lips. Tough crowd. You're not here to fight, but to learn, and every step in this village is a lesson in survival. A young warrior, barely older than a boy, jogs past, his spear balanced like an extension of his arm. "Training at the river," he calls, and you follow, drawn to the pulse of this place. The path winds through frost-crusted pines, the air sharp enough to sting your lungs. You hear the village waking fully now. Shouts, laughter, the clatter of tools. A woman hands you a piece of flatbread, still warm, and you take it with a nod, the grainy bite grounding you. "Don't eat too slow," she teases, and you grin, already liking their blunt humor. This tribe's no myth, they're real, raw, and ready for whatever comes. And as you head toward the river, you feel it, the mystery of their strength, the shadow of their fate, pulling you deeper into their world. You're trudging along a frost-rimed path toward the river, the village's morning buzz fading behind you as the air grows sharper, laced with the scent of pine and wet stone. The young warrior you're following, Torin, moves like a deer, his spear glinting in the pale sunlight. You're here to learn the tribe's battle rituals, the fierce code that makes them legends even among the Vikings, who aren't exactly known for trembling. Your woolen tunic scratches your skin, but it keeps the cold at bay as you reach a clearing where warriors, men and women alike, train in a circle of churned earth. Their movements are precise, brutal, a dance of steel and muscle that hums with purpose. You're an outsider, but they let you watch, their eyes daring you to keep up. In the 9th century, warrior tribes across northern Europe forged codes of combat that blended discipline with ferocity, often outmatching Viking raiders in small-scale skirmishes. This tribe's rituals are their heartbeat, a mix of training and tradition that binds them tighter than any wall. You stand at the edge, breath clouding in the chill, as Torin pairs off with a woman named Sigrid, her braids swinging as she parries his spear with a short blade. The clang of metal echoes, and you feel the ground vibrate under your feet. They're not just fighting, they're teaching, each move a lesson in survival. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes painted their weapons with ochre to honor spirits, believing it made their strikes truer. You notice Sigrid's blade has faint red streaks, and you wonder if it's more than decoration. Historians still argue whether these rituals were spiritual or purely practical, a way to intimidate or just to hone skill. You'd say it's both. Every swing feels like a prayer and a threat. Torin spots you, grinning as he wipes sweat from his brow. "Care to try, stranger?" he calls, tossing you a blunt practice spear. You catch it, heavier than it looks, and step into the circle, heart pounding. "Don't skewer yourself," Sigrid teases, her stance loose but ready. You mimic her grip, feeling like a kid with a toy sword, and the warriors laugh, not cruelly, but like you're part of the joke. You thrust, clumsy, and she sidesteps, tapping your shoulder with her blade. "Slow's death," she says, but her nod says you're not hopeless. The training ground's alive with shouts and clashing steel, the air sharp with effort. You watch an older warrior, his beard streaked with gray, correct a young fighter's stance with a gentle shove. "Feet firm, heart fierce," he growls, and you feel the weight of their code, loyalty, precision, survival. You try another thrust, better this time, and Torin claps your back. "Not bad for a soft foot," he says, and you grin, panting. Their humor's as sharp as their blades, and you're starting to get it. A horn sounds, low and urgent, and the warriors pause, eyes scanning the trees. "Scouts," Sigrid mutters, gripping her blade. You follow her gaze, seeing nothing but shadows, but your pulse quickens. The tribe's always ready, their rituals not just practice but a shield against the world. You hand the spear back, your hands tingling, and fall in step as they head toward the river. The code's in their blood, and you're starting to feel it too, a rhythm of strength and defiance, carved into every move they make. You're standing by the river's edge, the water's icy churn reflecting the gray dawn as Torin and Sigrid lead you toward a cluster of warriors huddled around a fire. The air's crisp, smelling of wet moss and smoke, and their low voices carry tales of Viking raiders, fierce men from the sea whose longships haunt the coasts. You're here to hear these stories, whispered like warnings, of clashes that made even the Norsemen pause. The warriors pass a horn of mead, their faces lit by flickering flames, and you settle on a log, your woolen tunic damp from the morning's chill. Their eyes flick to you, curious but guarded, as an elder named Bjorn begins to speak, his voice rough as the river rocks. In the 9th century, Viking sagas often mentioned unnamed tribes who fought with such ferocity that Norse skalds wove them into tales of dread and respect. These stories are the tribe's oral history, a tapestry of truth and myth that binds them against their enemies. Bjorn leans forward, his scarred hands tracing patterns in the air. "They came with axes," he says, "but we sent them running, their shields splintered." You feel the weight of his words, each one a badge of survival against a foe who carved empires with blood. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes carved runes into trees to mark Viking defeats, taunting raiders who couldn't read them. You notice a nearby oak with faint scratches, and you wonder if it's one of those silent boasts. Historians still argue whether these tribes were mere footnotes in Viking history or key players who shaped their raids. You'd say they were thorns, small but sharp, drawing blood from giants. Bjorn's tale grows vivid, a dawn ambush, the tribe's warriors striking from the mist, their spears faster than Viking swords. You imagine the clash, the river red with effort, and shiver, not just from the cold. "Ever seen a Viking run?" Torin asks, smirking, and you shake your head. "Stick around, you might," he teases, and the group laughs, the tension easing. Their humor's a spark, warming the chill of their stories. A warrior named Freya adds her own tale, her voice steady as she describes outwitting a Viking scout by mimicking bird calls to confuse him. He thought owls were hunting him, she says, and you chuckle, picturing the bewildered Norseman. You're starting to see their strength, not just in blades but in cunning, in knowing the land like their own skin. You sip the mead, its warmth spreading, and pass the horn, feeling a flicker of belonging. The fire crackles, and Bjorn's eyes narrow as he mentions a recent sighting, Viking tracks near the valley's edge. The warriors stiffen, hands drifting to weapons, and you feel the air shift, heavy with threat. They'll come again, he says, and you nod, your heart thudding. These tales aren't just history, they're warnings, and you're caught in their current. Torin claps your shoulder. Don't look so pale, stranger, he says, grinning. We've beaten them before. You force a smile, but your eyes scan the trees, half expecting a longship's shadow. The river rushes on, its sound a steady hum as the warriors rise, their stories done for now. You follow, your boots slipping on wet stones, the weight of their defiance settling in your bones. The Vikings may be legends, but this tribe's no myth. They're real, and their shadow looms as large as the raiders they've faced. You're ready to see their world deeper, to walk their hidden paths. You're trekking through a dense forest now, the river's roar fading as you follow Sigrid and Torin deeper into the tribe's hidden valley. The air's thick with pine and damp earth, and your boots sink into mossy ground, each step a reminder of how far you are from the village's safety. The valley's a fortress, its steep cliffs and tangled woods a natural shield that's kept the tribe's stronghold secret from Viking raiders and curious outsiders. You're here to explore its heart, to see the land that shapes these warriors' fierce spirit. Shadows flicker through the trees, and every snap of a twig makes your pulse jump. Out here, you're no match for what lurks. In the 9th century, many tribes used natural landscapes like this as defensive strongholds, their valleys and forests more effective than any wall against invaders. This place feels alive, its cliffs looming like silent sentinels, carved with faint symbols you can't quite read. Sigrid points to a narrow path winding up a rocky slope. That's the watch point, she says, her voice low. See everything, be seen by nothing. You nod, catching your breath as you climb, the air sharp in your lungs. The tribe's survival depends on this secrecy, and you're starting to feel its weight. A quirky tidbit pops up. Some tribes hid their trails with woven branches, making paths vanish like magic to confuse enemies. You notice a patch of brambles that looks too neat, and you wonder if it's one of those tricks. Historians still argue whether these strongholds were permanent homes or seasonal refuges for nomadic tribes. You'd bet on permanence. This valley's too fortified, its paths too worn, to be anything less than a heartland. Torin pauses, pointing to a cave mouth half hidden by vines. Storage, he says, grinning. Food, weapons, secrets. You peer inside, catching the glint of stacked spears and dried herbs, the air cool and musty. Don't touch, Sigrid warns, half joking. Unless you want to explain yourself to the elders. You laugh, raising your hands, but you're impressed. This tribe's got layers, and you're only scratching the surface. Their humor's a lifeline, easing the tension of a place that's both sanctuary and trap. The path climbs higher, and you spot a wooden platform perched on a cliff, overlooking the valley. Sigrid leads you up, her steps sure, and you're breathless at the view. Rolling green, cut by the river's silver thread, the village a speck below. Vikings never find this, she says, pride in her voice. You believe her. This place is a maze, and you're lucky to have guides. A rustle in the brush below makes you tense, but it's just a deer, bounding away. Jumpy, stranger? Torin teases, and you shrug, grinning. Thought it was a Viking. The valley's beauty hides its danger. Every shadow could be a scout, every path a potential ambush. You notice carvings on a nearby rock, spirals and runes that feel older than the tribe itself. Sigrid traces one, her face unreadable. Our strength's here, she says, and you feel it, a pulse in the stone, in the air. This stronghold's more than a hideout, it's a legacy, and you're walking its edge, caught between awe and the prickling sense that you're not alone in these woods. You're deep in the valley now, the forest giving way to a clearing where the air hums with the clang of hammer on iron and the sharp scent of charcoal. You followed Sigrid to the tribe's sacred forges, a cluster of stone hearths where blacksmiths craft weapons that make Viking swords look like toys. The ground scorched, littered with slag, and the heat hits you like a wave as you approach. A burly smith, his arms scarred from years of fire, pounds a glowing blade, sparks flying like tiny stars. You're here to witness their mastery, the art that arms this tribe against raiders, and it's mesmerizing, each strike a promise of strength, each blade a piece of their soul. In the 9th century, skilled blacksmiths were revered across northern Europe, their weapons often blending function with intricate designs that hinted at spiritual beliefs. This tribe's forges are no mere workshop, they're a shrine, the bellows roar like a chant. You stand back, your woolen tunic clinging to your skin in the heat, as Sigrid explains the process. Iron's just rock till we give it life, she says, nodding to a finished spear, its tip etched with swirling patterns. You're struck by the care in every detail, the way they turn raw or into defiance. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes believed a blade held the smith's spirit, and a few even slept by their forges to guard their work. You notice a small bundle of herbs tied near a hearth, maybe an offering, and it makes you wonder what else these smiths believe. Historians still argue whether such craftsmanship was purely practical or laced with ritual magic. You'd say it's both. Every hammer strike feels like a prayer, forging weapons and faith in one breath. The smith, Hagen, glances up, his eyes glinting like the steel he shapes. "Want to try, stranger?" he asks, offering you a hammer. You take it, heavy as a promise, and swing at a red-hot rod. The clang jars your arms, and sparks scatter. "Not bad," Hagen grunts, "but don't quit your day job." You laugh, handing it back, your hands tingling. Their humor's as sharp as their blades, cutting through the forge's intensity. You're no smith, but you feel the weight of their craft, the pride in every weapon. Sigrid shows you a rack of finished spears, their tips gleaming in the firelight. "These stopped Vikings," she says, her voice steady. You trace one, feeling the etched patterns under your fingers, and imagine it piercing a Norse shield. The forge's heat is relentless, but so are these people. A younger smith, barely a teen, stokes the fire, his face smudged but focused. You nod at him, and he grins, shy but proud. This isn't just work, it's a legacy, passed down through sweat and flame. A distant horn cuts through the clang, and the smiths pause, hands stilling. Sigrid's eyes narrow. "Scouts again," she mutters, grabbing a spear. You feel the air shift, the forge's warmth turning heavy with threat. You're not a warrior, but you're caught in their rhythm, your heart pounding as you follow Sigrid back toward the village. The forges keep burning, their glow a beacon in the valley, and you carry the weight of their craft with you. Steel and spirit, forged to face whatever comes. You're crouched in the shadow of a jagged cliff, the valley's dusk wrapping around you like a cloak as you huddle with Torin, Sigrid, and a handful of warriors. The air's heavy with the scent of pine and damp stone, and your breath catches as you listen to their plan for an ambush against a band of raiders, maybe Vikings, maybe rivals, who've been sniffing too close to the valley's edge. Your woolen tunic's damp with sweat despite the chill, and the knife at your belt feels like a toy compared to the spears and axes glinting in the fading light. You're not fighting, just watching, but the tension's thick enough to choke on, and you're half sure you'll trip over your own feet if things go south. In the 9th century, ambushes were a hallmark of tribal warfare, using stealth and terrain to outwit stronger foes like Viking raiders. Sigrid's outlining the plan, her voice low but sharp, pointing to a narrow pass where the raiders are likely to creep through. "Hit fast, fade faster," she says, tracing a map in the dirt with her knife. You nod, trying to look useful, but your heart's pounding. Planning an ambush is one thing, surviving it's another. The tribe's strength is their speed, their knowledge of every rock and route, and you're just hoping to keep up. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes smeared mud on their faces to blend into the dusk, scaring enemies who thought they faced ghosts. You notice Sigrid's cheeks are streaked with earth, and you wonder if it's strategy or superstition. Historians still argue whether these ambushes were desperate defenses or calculated power plays. You'd say it's both. Survival's a game, and this tribe plays to win. Torin hands you a small pouch of dried herbs. Chew these if things get hairy, he says, grinning. Keeps you sharp. You take it, sniffing the bitter tang, and mutter, "What, no mead for courage?" He laughs, clapping your back. "Earn that later, stranger." Their humor's a spark in the dark, keeping fear at bay. You tuck the pouch away, feeling the weight of their trust, even if it's just a sliver. The warriors move into position, silent as shadows, their weapons dulled with soot to avoid glinting. You're told to stay low, hidden behind a boulder, and you obey, your pulse racing as you peer into the pass. The plan's simple: draw the raiders in, strike from above, then vanish into the forest. Sigrid signals, and two warriors slip away to lure the enemy with a false campfire. You're impressed. Cunning's their edge, not just muscle. A rustle in the distance makes you freeze, your hand gripping the knife. Torin's beside you, his spear ready, his eyes locked on the pass. "Breathe slow," he whispers, and you try, though your lungs feel like they're betraying you. The air's thick with waiting, every sound amplified, the hoot of an owl, the crunch of leaves. "Ever ambush a bear by mistake?" You whisper, trying to lighten the mood, and Torin snorts. "You'd be dinner, soft-foot." You grin, but your eyes stay on the pass. The first raider appears, a hulking figure in furs, his axe catching the moonlight. More follow, cautious but not cautious enough. Sigrid's signal, a low whistle, and the warriors strike, arrows hissing from the cliffs. You stay put, heart hammering, as shouts and steel clash below. The tribe's precision is terrifying, and you're glad you're on their side. The ambush is over fast, the raiders retreating, and you exhale, shaky but alive, ready to follow the warriors back to the village. You're picking your way through a tangled forest, the valley's cliffs looming above as you follow Torin on a scout's trail, your boots slipping on frost-slick roots. The air's sharp with pine and the faint musk of damp fir, and every rustle in the underbrush sets your nerves on edge. You're out here to track the wilderness, to learn how the tribe moves unseen, watching for Viking scouts or rival clans. Torin's ahead, his steps silent despite the spear slung across his back, his eyes scanning the ground for signs, broken twigs, scuffed earth. You're trying to keep up, but your city-soft feet are no match for his, and you're half convinced you'll trip into a bear's den before the day's out. In the 9th century, tribes like this were masters of their terrain, using forests and rivers as both shield and weapon against invaders like the Vikings. Torin pauses, crouching to point at a faint boot print in the mud. "Not ours," he whispers, his voice barely carrying. You squint, seeing nothing but dirt, and he smirks. "Look harder, stranger." You do, and there it is, a heel mark, too broad for the tribe's narrow boots. Your pulse quickens, someone's been here, and they're not friendly. A quirky tidbit pops up. Some tribes marked trails with knotted grass, invisible to outsiders but clear as day to their scouts. You notice a clump of bent reeds nearby, and wonder if it's one of those signs. Historians still argue whether these tracking skills were honed for hunting or purely for war. You'd say it's both. This forest feels like a living map, and Torin reads it like a book. He motions you to follow, moving low through the brush. "Step where I step," he says, and you try, though your foot catches a root, earning a stifled laugh. "Graceful as a drunk ox," he teases, and you grin, shaking it off. Their humor keeps you grounded, even when the forest feels like it's watching. You pass a stream, its water glinting like steel, and Torin checks for more tracks. Nothing, but his tension says he's not convinced. A twig snaps nearby, and you freeze, your hand instinctively gripping the knife Torin gave you. A blunt thing, more for show than slaughter. He signals for silence, his eyes locked on a thicket. A deer bounds out, and you exhale, heart pounding. "Thought it was a Viking," you mutter, and Torin chuckles. You'd be dead already. His jest stings, but you're learning, out here, hesitation's a death sentence. The trail loops toward a ridge, offering a view of the valley below, the village a distant cluster, the river a silver thread. Torin points to a faint smoke trail far off. Could be hunters, he says, or trouble. You squint, seeing nothing but haze, and feel useless. These scouts are the tribe's eyes, and you're barely a squinting bystander. Still, you follow, memorizing the path, the signs, the way Torin moves like he's part of the forest itself. As you head back, the air grows colder, the sun dipping behind the cliffs. You're exhausted, your legs aching, but you feel the tribe's strength in every step. This land's their weapon, and they wield it with deadly grace. Torin claps your shoulder. Not bad for a softfoot, he says, and you smile, knowing you've earned a sliver of respect. The trail's taught you more than tracks. It's shown you the tribe's pulse, and you're ready to see what's next. You're back in the village now, the ambush's adrenaline still buzzing in your veins as you stand beneath the sky ablaze with stars, the air sharp with frost and the scent of burning pine. The tribe's gathered around a massive bonfire, its flames licking the night as warriors chant low, rhythmic songs that echo off the valley's cliffs. You're here to join their moonlit rituals, ceremonies that bind their spirits and steel their resolve after the day's fight. Your woolen tunics heavy with damp, but the fire's warmth pulls you in, and you feel the tribe's pulse, fierce, unbroken, alive. Torin hands you a wooden cup of mead, its honeyed bite sharp on your tongue. Drink deep, stranger, he says, his grin shadowed by firelight. Tonight, you're one of us. In the 9th century, many northern European tribes held night rituals to honor ancestors or gods, blending song, dance, and offerings to ward off evil or ensure victory. This ceremony feels ancient, the chants weaving stories of battles won and heroes lost. You stand among the warriors, Sigrid to your left, her face painted with ochre streaks that glow in the fire's light. The drumbeats match your heartbeat, and you sway, caught in the rhythm, as an elder tosses herbs into the flames, sending up sparks and a heady, herbal scent. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes believed moonlight sharpened their blade spirits, leaving weapons out overnight to drink the glow. You notice a row of spears propped against a log, their tips glinting silver, and wonder if they're soaking up the moon's power. Historians still argue whether these rituals were spiritual devotion or morale-boosting shows for warriors. You'd say it's both. These chants aren't just prayers, they're fuel for the fight. Sigrid nudges you, pointing to a dancer spinning near the fire, his movements sharp yet fluid, mimicking a battle. That's for the fallen, she whispers. You nod, mesmerized, but your city-soft nerves make you feel like a kid at a grown-up party. Don't trip into the fire, stranger, she teases, and you laugh, sipping the mead to hide your nerves. Their humor's a thread, tying you to this moment, this tribe. The elder, her face lined like the valley's cliffs, raises a carved horn and calls out names. Warriors, ancestors, maybe gods. The crowd answers, their voices a low roar, and you join in, your voice shaky but earnest. Torin claps your shoulder. Not bad for a softfoot, he says, and you grin, feeling the mead's warmth spread. The ritual's a bridge between past and present, and you're crossing it, however clumsily. A young warrior steps forward, offering a small stone carved with runes to the fire. The flames flare, and the crowd murmurs approval. You're not sure what it means, but you feel its weight, a promise, a sacrifice. The chants grow softer, the drums slower, and you sense the night turning inward, the tribe drawing strength from this shared moment. You glance at Sigrid, her eyes fierce but calm, and realize these rituals aren't just tradition, they're armor for what's coming. The fire crackles, and you notice the quiet man from the ambush, his face half hidden in shadow, watching from the crowd's edge. Your gut twists. He's not one of them, and his presence feels like a crack in the night's unity. You'll tell Torin later, but for now, you let the ritual pull you back, the chants lulling your mind. The moon's high, the valley's alive, and you're part of something ancient, if only for a night. You're still reeling from the moonlit chants, the fire's warmth lingering on your skin as you follow Sigrid and Torin through the village, the night air sharp with frost and the faint echo of drums. The ambush's success has the tribe buzzing, but there's no rest. Words come of a Viking scouting party creeping closer, their tracks spotted near the river. You're with the warriors now, moving toward a wooded ridge to face them, your heart thudding like a war drum. Your woolen tunics heavy with dew, and the knife at your belt feels useless against the axes you imagine glinting in the dark. You're not fighting, just observing, but the tension's thick enough to choke on, and you're half sure you'll trip over a root and alert the whole forest. In the 9th century, small-scale clashes between tribes and Viking scouts were common, testing both sides' cunning and nerve before larger battles. Sigrid leads the way, her spear balanced like an extension of her arm, her steps silent on the pine-strewn ground. "Stay low, stranger," she whispers, her ochre-streaked face barely visible in the moonlight. You crouch, your breath clouding, and try to mimic her stealth, though your boots crunch louder than you'd like. Torin glances back, smirking. "Quieter, or you'll invite the whole Norse fleet," he teases, and you grimace, stepping lighter. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes used owl hoots to signal during night raids, throwing off enemies who thought they were just birds. You hear a low hoot now, and Sigrid answers with one of her own, a signal to the warriors fanning out through the trees. Historians still argue whether these tribes outfought Vikings through skill or sheer audacity. You'd say it's both. Their precision is terrifying, but it's their nerve that makes your spine tingle. The ridge overlooks a clearing where the Vikings, 5 of them, hulking in furs and chain, move cautiously, their torches casting jittery shadows. Sigrid signals, and the warriors melt into position, arrows nocked, spears ready. You're behind a tree, your pulse racing, feeling like a kid hiding from monsters. "Ever see a Viking up close?" Torin whispers, and you shake your head. "Hope you brought clean trousers," he quips, and you stifle a laugh, grateful for the levity. The attack's sudden, arrows hiss, a Viking grunts, and chaos erupts. Sigrid's spear flashes, catching a scout's shield, while Torin tackles another, their blades clashing like thunder. You stay put, gripping your knife, useless but ready. The Vikings are tough, but the tribe's faster, using the trees like allies, striking and fading. One scout flees, and Sigrid lets him go. "Let him tell tales," she says, panting. You're awed, her strategies as sharp as her blade. The fight's over fast, the clearing empty except for a fallen torch, its flames sputtering in the dirt. You exhale, shaky, as Torin claps your shoulder. "Not bad for a spectator," he says, and you grin, though your legs feel like jelly. You notice the quiet man from the ritual lingering nearby, his eyes on the retreating Viking's path. Your gut twists, he's too close, too calm. You'll mention him to Sigrid, but for now, you follow the warriors back, the forest swallowing the clash's echoes. The tribes won this round, and you're starting to see why even Vikings tremble. You're back in the village, the night's chill settling into your bones as you follow Sigrid to a longhouse where the tribe's elders gather, their faces carved with lines as deep as the valley's cliffs. The air's thick with the scent of burning herbs and old leather, and a single fire casts flickering shadows across the walls, where carved runes seem to pulse with secrets. You're here to hear the elders' wisdom, prophecies woven from dreams and omens that guide the tribe through danger. Your woolen tunics still damp from the forest, and you shift uncomfortably on a wooden bench, feeling the weight of eyes older than the oaks outside. Sigrid sits beside you, her spear propped nearby, her presence a quiet anchor. In the 9th century, tribal seers were often the glue of their communities, their visions shaping everything from battle plans to harvest rites. The head elder, a woman named Ylva, her hair silver as moonlight, fixes you with a stare that feels like it sees your soul. "You've seen our blades, stranger," she says, her voice a low rasp. "Now hear our heart." She tosses a bone into the fire, and the flames flare, drawing gasps from the younger warriors. You're not sure if it's showmanship or something deeper, but you're hooked. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some seers used polished stones to see the future, claiming they held spirits' whispers. You notice a smooth black stone in Ilva's hand, and you wonder if it's one of those relics. Historians still argue whether these prophecies were divine insight or clever manipulation to rally the tribe. You'd say it's both. Ilva's words carry power, whether from gods or her own sharp mind. She speaks of a coming storm, not just winter, but a Viking tide, their longships gathering like wolves. They'll test us, she says, but we are the valley's teeth. You feel the room tighten, warriors nodding, their faces fierce. You're caught in the spell, half believing her vision of fire and steel. Ever had your fortune told by a bone? Sigrid whispers, smirking, and you shake your head. Better than a tavern bet, you quip, and she chuckles, easing your nerves. Ilva's prophecy shifts to you, her eyes narrowing. You carry questions, stranger, she says, and your stomach flips. She's not wrong. You're here for their story, but the quiet man from the fight lingers in your mind, his shadow a puzzle. You don't speak, but Ilva's stone glints as she turns it, murmuring of hidden threats. You wonder if she means him. The fire crackles, and a young warrior tosses in a sprig of thyme, the scent sharp and grounding. For courage, he mutters, and you nod, wishing you had some for yourself. The elder's words weave a tale of the tribe's strength, born of earth, tempered by blood. You feel their pride, their fear, their defiance. Don't look so spooked, Torin teases from across the room, his grin a spark in the gloom. Ghosts don't bite. You laugh, but your eyes drift to the door, where the quiet man's silhouette lingers, then vanishes. You'll tell Sigrid soon, he's no ghost, but he's trouble. The fire dies low, and Ilva's voice softens, her prophecy fading into a chant. You're left with questions, but the tribe's resolve is clear. They'll face whatever comes, guided by these ancient words. You rise, following Sigrid out, the night air sharp against your skin. The valley's alive with secrets, and you're deeper in its mystery than ever. You're weaving through the forest again, dawn's pale light filtering through the pines as you follow Torin and a small hunting party, your boots crunching on frost-crusted leaves. The air's sharp with the scent of sap and earth, and your woolen tunic does little to block the chill creeping into your bones. You're here to join the tribe's hunt, chasing game to feed the village. Deer, boar, anything to keep the stew pots full as winter looms. Your knife's at your belt, more for show than skill, and you're half sure you'll scare off the game before you spot it. Torin glances back, his spear balanced lightly. Keep up, stranger, he says, grinning, or you'll be eating roots for supper. In the 9th century, hunting was a lifeline for tribes like this, their survival tied to the forest's bounty as much as their blades. Torin points to a scuff in the dirt, a deer track, fresh and deep. You squint, barely seeing it, and he chuckles. City eyes, he teases, but he slows to show you how to read the trail. Broken twigs, hoof marks, a tuft of fur snagged on a thorn. You're learning, clumsy as it feels, and the forest's alive around you. Birds chirping, wind rustling, every sound a clue or a threat. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some hunters smeared berry juice on their hands, believing it masked their scent from wary game. You notice Torin's fingers stained red and wonder if he's done the same. Historians still argue whether these hunts were practical chores or sacred rites tied to the land's spirits. You'd say it's both. The way Torin moves, silent and reverent, feels like a prayer to the forest itself. A rustle ahead makes you freeze, and Torin signals for silence, his spear raised. You crouch, heart pounding, as a deer steps into a clearing, its antlers catching the light. The hunters spread out, arrows nocked, and you hold your breath, feeling useless but rapt. Torin's arrow flies, swift and true, and the deer drops, clean. Good shot, you whisper, and he winks. Better than your tracking, soft foot. You laugh, the tension breaking, but you're impressed. His skills as sharp as the tribe's blades. The party moves to dress the deer, their knives flashing with practiced ease. You try to help, fumbling with your knife, and a hunter named Leaf snorts. Stick to watching, or we'll be here till spring, he teases, but he shows you how to cut, his hands patient. Their humor's a spark, keeping the work light despite the blood and cold. You're starting to feel the tribe's rhythm, their bond with the land, but a snap in the brush pulls your focus. A boar, maybe, or something worse. Torin's eyes narrow, scanning the trees. Not game, he mutters, gripping his spear. You remember the Viking tracks from yesterday, and your gut twists. The hunters shift, weapons ready, but nothing emerges. Just the wind, Leaf says, but his voice is tight. You're not convinced, and neither's Torin. The forest's a friend, but it's also a maze, hiding threats as easily as it hides deer. As you haul the kill back, the village coming into view, you feel the weight of the hunt. Not just the meat, but the trust they've shown you. The quiet man from the ritual flashes in your mind, his shadow lingering like a bad omen. You'll tell Sigrid soon, but for now, you carry your share, the forest's pulse echoing in your steps. The tribe's fed for another day, and you're part of it, if only for a moment. You're crouched by the river's edge now. The water's icy churn a dull roar as you stand guard with Sigrid and a handful of warriors, their spears glinting in the midday sun. The valley's cliffs loom overhead, their shadows stretching across the pebbled bank, and the air's sharp with the scent of wet stone and pine. You're here to protect the tribe's watery borders, a key defense against Vikings or rival clans who might slip through by boat or ford. Your woolen tunic's damp from the spray, and your knife feels like a child's toy compared to the axes at your side. You're not fighting, just watching, but the tension's thick, and you're half sure you'll miss a signal and doom the whole valley. In the 9th century, rivers were both lifelines and vulnerabilities for tribes, offering fish and trade but also paths for invaders like the Vikings, whose longships could strike without warning. Sigrid points to a bend in the river, where the current slows. They'd come there, she says, her voice steady but low. Shallow enough to cross, deep enough to hide. You nod, scanning the water, your eyes straining for any ripple that doesn't belong. The tribes built stakes along the bank, sharpened to gut a boat, and you're impressed. Their defense is as cunning as their ambushes. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes sank logs in rivers to snag enemy boats, turning calm waters into traps. You notice a dark shape under the surface and wonder if it's one of those hidden spikes. Historians still argue whether these river defenses were desperate measures or strategic brilliance. You'd say it's both. Every stake feels like a dare to the Vikings to try their luck. Sigrid hands you a small horn. Blow if you see anything, she says, her eyes flicking to yours. You take it, hoping you won't need to use it, and mutter, "What, no practice run?" She smirks. "Don't choke, stranger." Her humor's a spark, cutting through the weight of the watch. You settle behind a boulder, the river's hum steadying your nerves, and watch the water, feeling like a kid playing sentinel. A warrior named Carrie paces nearby, her axe balanced lightly. She catches your eye and grins. "Ever fought a fish?" "Easier than Vikings," she teases, and you chuckle, easing your grip on the horn. Their levity keeps you grounded, but your eyes stay sharp, catching every shadow on the water. A bird dives, and you nearly blow the horn, earning a laugh from Carrie. "Save it for the real thing," she says, and you blush, feeling like a rookie. The river's calm, but Sigrid's tense, her spear never still. You notice her glancing upstream, where the water narrows. "Tracks yesterday," she mutters, and you remember the Viking signs Torin found. Your stomach twists, danger's close, and you're part of the shield now. A faint splash pulls your focus, but it's just a fish, glinting silver. Still, Sigrid signals the warriors to tighten their line, and you grip the horn, ready but hoping it stays quiet. The quiet man from the ritual flashes in your mind, his shadow's been too present, too slippery. You lean towards Sigrid, whispering, "That stranger from last night, he's watching too much." Her eyes narrow, but she nods. "We'll deal with him," she says, and you feel a flicker of relief. The river rushes on, the valleys pulse steady, and you're holding the line, caught in the tribe's fierce dance of defense. You're back in the village. the river's chill still clinging to your tunic as you slip through the evening shadows, following Sigrid toward a secluded grove where the tribe's warriors gather in hushed tones. The air's thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and the faint glow of a hidden fire casts flickering light on their faces, taut with suspicion. You're here to uncover a traitor, someone slipping secrets to outsiders, maybe Vikings, maybe rivals, and the weight of distrust hangs heavy. Your knife's at your belt, more for comfort than use, and your heart's pounding like a drum, half sure you'll say the wrong thing and get yourself exiled. Sigrid's eyes are sharp as she scans the group, and you feel the tribe's unity cracking under the strain. In the 9th century, betrayal was a death sentence for tribes like this, where loyalty was the glue holding them against relentless enemies. Sigrid pulls you aside, her voice a whisper. "Someone's talking," she says, nodding toward the fire where Torin and Carrie argue softly with an elder. "You've seen the quiet man in the clean cloak too often, his shadow at the ritual, the ambush, the river, and you've told Sigrid your suspicions. She trusts you, barely, but enough to let you stay. Watch and listen," she says, and you nod, feeling like a kid caught in a grown-up game. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes used marked stones to vote on suspected traitors, casting them into a fire to seal their judgment. You notice a pile of smooth pebbles near the elder, and your stomach twists. Justice here is swift and unforgiving. Historians still argue whether these betrayals were driven by greed or survival, a desperate bid to escape a losing fight. You'd say it's both. Loyalty's a luxury when death's at the door. Torin spots you, his grin strained but real. "Not spying, are you, stranger?" he teases, and you force a laugh. "Only on your bad aim," you quip, and Carrie snorts, easing the tension. Their humor's a lifeline, but it's fragile tonight. The elder, Ilva, steps forward, her silver hair glinting as she holds up a scrap of cloth, Viking weave, found near the river. The group murmurs, and you feel the air tighten. "Someone led them close," she says, her eyes scanning every face, including yours. You point out the quiet man, describing his cloak, his too calm stare. Sigrid nods, whispering to a warrior who slips into the dark to track him. You're not sure if you've helped or stirred a hornet's nest, but there's no going back. Ilva tosses a pebble into the fire, and the warriors follow, each stone a silent accusation. You're not asked to vote, thankfully, but you feel the weight of their judgment, the fear of betrayal cutting deeper than any blade. A shout breaks the silence, and the warrior returns, dragging the quiet man, his cloak torn, his face pale but defiant. "Found him signaling," the warrior says, holding up a carved stick, Viking runes. The group erupts, and Sigrid's spear is at his throat before you blink. "Talk," she growls, and he stammers about promises of gold. You're stunned, his calm was a mask, and you spotted it. "Good eye, stranger," Torin mutters, and you nod, shaky but proud. The traitor's bound, his fate for the elders to decide, and you follow Sigrid back to the village, the grove's tension lingering. The fire's embers fade behind you, but the tribe's resolve burns brighter. You've helped protect their heart, and the valley feels a little safer tonight, even as the shadow of betrayal lingers. You're trudging through the village now, the first bite of winter's chill seeping into the air as you followed Torin and a group of warriors preparing for the coming cold. The sky's a heavy gray, the valley's cliffs looming like silent guards, and the scent of frost and wood smoke clings to your woolen tunic. You're here to help ready the tribe for a harsh season, gathering supplies and fortifying the stronghold against the snows, and any Vikings who might see winter as a chance to strike. Your knife's at your belt, useless for chopping wood but a comfort nonetheless, and you're half sure you'll freeze before you prove your worth. Torin tosses you a bundle of furs. "Wrap up, stranger," he says, grinning. "You're not built for snow." In the 9th century, winter was a brutal test for northern European tribes, forcing them to stockpile food and reinforce shelters while staying vigilant for raiders. You follow Torin to a storehouse, its walls packed with dried meat, grain, and bundles of herbs, the air thick with the tang of preserved fish. "We don't starve," he says, checking a sack of barley, "but we don't feast either." You nod, helping stack firewood, your hands stinging from the cold. The tribe's survival hinges on these preparations, and you feel the weight of every log, every sack, as if the valley itself is watching. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes burned pine cones in their fires, believing the smoke warded off winter spirits. You notice a basket of cones near the storehouse door and wonder if they're for more than kindling. Historians still argue whether these winter rituals were practical or steeped in superstition. You'd say it's both. Every act here feels like a bargain with the land, a plea for one more season of survival. Sigrid joins you, her spear slung across her back, her cheeks flushed from hauling water. Not bad for a softfoot, she teases, seeing your pile of wood. Thought you'd be napping by now. You laugh, tossing a stick at her. Save it for the Vikings, you quip, and she smirks, tossing it back. Their humor's a spark, keeping the cold at bay, and you're starting to feel like part of the rhythm, even if your hands blister from the work. The warriors move to reinforce the palisade, sharpening stakes and packing gaps with mud. You help, smearing the sticky mix, and Torin laughs as you wipe mud on your tunic. You're one of us now, muddy or not, he says, and you grin, though your arms ache. The traitor's betrayal from last night lingers in the air, but the tribe's focus is forward, their hands steady as they prepare. You notice Ilva watching from a distance, her stone glinting in her hand, and wonder if she's reading omens in the clouds. A distant howl, wolf, maybe, cuts through the chatter, and the warriors pause, eyes scanning the forest. Winter brings hungry things, Sigrid mutters, gripping her spear. You feel the valley's pulse shift, a reminder that nature's as much a foe as any Viking. You stack another log, your breath clouding, and think of the quiet man's carved stick. Danger's never far. For now, though, you're with the tribe, building their shield against the cold, and the work grounds you, tying you to this fierce, fleeting world. You're standing on the valley's edge, the wind howling as snow dusts the ground, the village below a cluster of glowing hearths against the darkening sky. The tribes gathered for a final stand, their spears and axes glinting in the torchlight as they brace for an attack. Vikings, emboldened by winter's cover, have been spotted massing beyond the river. Your woolen tunic's no match for the biting cold, and your knife feels like a toothpick against the threat of Norse axes, but you're here, caught in the tribe's defiance. Sigrid's beside you, her breath clouding as she checks her spear, her eyes fierce. Stay close, stranger, she says. This isn't a game. You nod, heart hammering, knowing you're just a witness but feeling the weight of their fight. In the 9th century, winter battles were brutal, with tribes like this facing Viking raids when food and warmth were scarce. The valley's cliffs and river are the tribe's shield, but the Vikings are relentless, their longships likely hidden in the fog. Torin points to a narrow pass, the same one you ambushed before. Remember that heart-pounding night. Now a choke point for the invaders. They'll come there, he says, his voice steady but tight. You grip your knife, useless but grounding, and try to look brave, though your city-soft nerves scream to run. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes smeared ash on their faces before battle, believing it made them invisible to death's gaze. You notice Sigrid's cheeks streaked with soot and wonder if it's more than war paint. Historians still argue whether these desperate stands were heroic or doomed defiance against Viking tides. You'd say it's both. Every warrior here knows the odds but fights anyway, their spirit as sharp as their blades. The Vikings appear, shadows in the snow, their chainmail clinking like grim bells. Sigrid signals, and arrows hiss from the cliffs, thinning the raiders' line. You stay low, behind a rock, your breath shallow as steel clashes below. Torin's spear finds a mark, and a Viking falls, but more push forward, axes swinging. Hold the line. Sigrid shouts, her voice a beacon, and you're awed by her fire. A warrior stumbles, blood on his tunic, and you want to help but freeze, useless again. Stay down, soft foot. Torin yells, half laughing, and you duck, grateful for his humor in this chaos. The battle's a blur. Shouts, steel, the crunch of snow under boots. The tribe's cunning shines, using the pass to funnel the Vikings into traps, their spears faster than heavy axes. You see Ilva in the distance, her stone raised, chanting something that steadies the warriors. The Vikings falter, then retreat, their war cries fading into the storm. You exhale, shaky, as Sigrid claps your shoulder. Not bad for a spectator, she teases, and you grin, though your legs wobble like a newborn foal's. The tribe regroups, weary but unbroken, their faces lit with grim pride. You help carry a wounded warrior back, your hands trembling but useful at last. The valley's safe for now, but the cost lingers in the blood-streaked snow. You think of the quiet man's betrayal, thankfully rooted out before this fight, and feel the tribe's strength, their unity forged in fire. As you head to the village, the snow falls thicker, blanketing the scars of battle, and you're ready for the warmth of victory, however fleeting. You're stumbling into the village, the snow still clinging to your boots as the battle's adrenaline fades, replaced by the warm glow of hearths and the scent of roasting meat wafting from a massive bonfire at the center of the square. The tribes gathered, their faces flushed with the thrill of survival, their voices rising in a chaotic chorus of laughter and song. You're here for the victory feast, a celebration of the Vikings' retreat, a defiant middle finger to the cold and the enemy. Your woolen tunics damp with sweat and snow, but the fire's heat pulls you in, and you feel the tribe's pulse, alive, unbroken, electric. Torin shoves a wooden cup of mead into your hand, its honeyed warmth hitting your throat like a spark. "Drink, stranger," he says, grinning. "You've earned it, softfoot or not." In the 9th century, victory feasts were more than parties for tribes like this. They were rituals of defiance, binding the community after the bloodshed of battle. The bonfire crackles, its flames licking the night sky, and you see warriors, Sigrid, Carrie, even old Ilva, mingling with children and elders, their spears propped against longhouses like silent sentinels. You settle on a log, the mead loosening your nerves, and watch Sigrid carve a slab of venison, her knife flashing with the same precision she used in the fight. "Eat before it's gone," she calls, tossing you a piece, and you catch it, barely, earning a laugh from the crowd. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes poured mead onto the ground during feasts, an offering to ancestors who fought beside them in spirit. You notice Torin spill a few drops before drinking, his face solemn for a moment, and you wonder if he's honoring the fallen from today's clash. Historians still argue whether these feasts were joyous releases or desperate acts to mask the cost of survival. You'd say it's both. The joy's real, but the blood on the snow isn't forgotten. The meat's rich, smoky, and you tear into it, your hunger sharp after the day's ordeal. A young warrior starts a chant, her voice rising over the drums, and the tribe joins in, their words a mix of triumph and gratitude. You don't know the language, but you feel its weight, like a thread tying you to this moment. "Don't just sit there, stranger," Carrie teases, pulling you to your feet. "Dance, or you're washing dishes." You laugh, stumbling into a clumsy step as the crowd claps, their humor a spark that keeps the night alive. Sigrid's beside you now, her ochre-streaked face softened by the firelight. "You didn't run," she says, her voice low but warm. "Not bad for a softfoot." You grin, raising your cup. "To not running," you say, and she laughs, clinking her horn against yours. The tribe's unity wraps around you, a warmth deeper than the fire, and you're starting to feel like you belong, if only for tonight. The memory of the quiet man's betrayal, caught and dealt with, fades in the glow of this moment, but you're still wary, your eyes scanning the crowd for new shadows. A child darts past, offering you a braided cord of grass, a token of the feast. "For luck," she says, and you tie it around your wrist, touched by the gesture. The drums pick up, and Torin leads a group in a stomping dance, their boots shaking the ground. You join in, your steps awkward but earnest, and the tribe cheers, their voices drowning out the wind. "Not bad for a city rat," Torin shouts, and you shoot back, "Better than your aim." The laughter's loud, and you're caught in the tribe's rhythm, their joy a shield against the winter's bite. The feast stretches on, the fire burning low, and you feel the weight of the day. Battle, betrayal, survival, settling into something softer. Ilva's across the square, her stone glinting as she watches, her presence a quiet anchor. The tribe's alive, their valley secure, and you're part of this fleeting triumph. As you sink back onto the log, mead cup empty, you let the warmth and noise carry you, knowing tomorrow's challenges. Vikings, winter, secrets, wait just beyond the firelight. You're seated by the dying embers of the Victory Feast's bonfire, the village quieting as the stars burn bright above, their light cutting through the crisp night air. The scent of roasted meat and mead lingers, mixing with the faint chill of frost as you huddle closer to the fire, your woolen tunic barely keeping the cold at bay. You're here for the starlit tales, the tribe's legends of their origins whispered by elders under the vast sky, stories that weave their past into the present. Ilva, the silver-haired seer, sits across from you, her stone glinting in her hand, her voice low and steady as she begins, drawing you and a small circle of warriors into a world older than the valley itself. Your knife still at your belt, a grounding weight, but tonight, it's your ears that matter, catching every word like a net. In the 9th century, oral traditions were the backbone of tribes like this, their stories of creation and survival passed down to keep their spirit alive against invaders like the Vikings. Ilva's tale speaks of a first warrior, born from a star's spark, who carved the valley with a blade of light. You lean in, the fire's warmth on your face, and feel the weight of her words. Myth, maybe, but they bind the tribe like iron. We're her blood, Ilva says, her eyes meeting yours, and you nod, caught in the spell, though your city-soft mind wonders how much is truth. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes believed stars were their ancestors' eyes, watching battles and guiding hunters. You glance up, half expecting to see a warrior's gaze in the sky, and notice Torin doing the same. Historians still argue whether these origin tales were spiritual truths or crafted myths to unify tribes. You'd say it's both. Ilva's story feels like a fire, warming hearts and steeling nerves for the fights ahead. Torin shifts beside you, passing a horn of mead. Hope you're taking notes, stranger, he teases, his grin a spark in the dark. Or you'll forget us by morning. You chuckle, sipping the sweet burn. Hard to forget you lot, you quip, especially your aim. Sigrid, nearby, snorts, and the group laughs, the tension of the day's battle easing under the stars. Their humor's a thread, weaving you into this moment, this tribe. Ilva's story shifts to a great migration, the tribe fleeing a frozen land to find this valley, led by signs in the sky. You imagine them, warriors, families, carving a home from stone and pine, their defiance born here. Ever follow a star? Sigrid asks, her voice soft, and you shake your head. City lights drown them out, you admit, and she smirks. Poor you. Her jest stings, but it's warm, and you're grateful for the inclusion. The fire crackles, and Ilva's stone catches the light as she speaks of a prophecy, a time when the tribe would fade, their name lost but their spirit enduring. You think of the Viking clash, the traitor's runes, and wonder if that time's near. The quiet man's shadow is gone, but the unease lingers. You lean toward Sigrid, whispering, "These stories, they keep you fighting?" She nods. "They're our bones." You feel it, the weight of their past, and the stars seem closer, watching. The tale ends, and the group disperses, leaving you with Ilva's words echoing in your mind. You rise, the cold biting your fingers, and follow Torin back to the village, the stars a silent guide. The tribe's origins are a mystery, but their fire burns in you now, a spark of their unyielding spirit. You're wandering the valley's edge at dawn, the air sharp with frost and the faint tang of pine as you pick your way through a maze of rocks and tangled roots. The village lies quiet behind you, its hearth smoldering, but you're out here alone, searching for fading tracks, clues to why this tribe vanished from history's pages, their name lost despite their ferocity. Your woolen tunic's heavy with dew, and your knife's a small comfort against the vastness of the wilderness. The cliffs loom above, silent witnesses, and every crunch under your boots feels like a question. You're no scout, but Torin's lessons, remember those deer tracks, guide you, urging you to look closer, to see what time's buried. In the 9th century, many tribes disappeared without record, their fates swallowed by war, disease, or migration, leaving only whispers in Viking sagas or crumbling relics. You crouch by a stream, spotting a broken arrowhead half buried in the mud, its edge still sharp. It's theirs. Sigurd's spears had that same curve, and you tuck it into your pouch, feeling like you're stealing a secret. The valley's hiding something, its silence louder than the battles you've seen, and you're chasing shadows to understand why this tribe faded. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes left ghost markers, carved stones or notched trees, to guide their kin back to abandoned lands. You notice a rock with faint scratches, maybe runes, and wonder if it's one of those signs, pointing to a lost path. Historians still argue whether these tribes vanished by choice, blending into other cultures, or were erased by force. You'd say it's both. Survival's a choice until it's not, and this valley feels like a grave and a sanctuary. A twig snaps, and you freeze, your city-soft nerves screaming bear or Viking. It's just a squirrel, scampering off, and you laugh at yourself, muttering, "Some scout you are." The humor's a spark, keeping you steady as you move deeper, following a faint trail of scuffed earth. You're no Tauren, but you're learning. Broken branches, a scrap of woven cloth snagged on a thorn, signs of a people who were here and then weren't. The cloth's pattern matches Sigurd's tunic, and your chest tightens. How did they slip away? You climb a ridge, the valley sprawling below, and spot a cave mouth, half hidden by vines. It's like the one Tauren showed you, remember the weapon stash? But smaller, forgotten. Inside, the air's musty, and your fingers brush a pile of charred bones, a rusted blade, a shattered pot. No gold, no glory, just traces of lives cut short. You shiver, not from the cold, and wonder if this was their last stand, or a hideout abandoned in haste. You didn't make it easy, you whisper to the ghosts, half expecting an answer. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of snow, and you feel the valley's weight, its secrets heavier than the cliffs. You think of Ylva's prophecy, her talk of fading, and it hits you. Maybe they chose to vanish, to protect their legacy. You tuck the arrowhead tighter in your pouch, a piece of their story, and head back, your boots heavier with each step. The village waits, but the tracks are cold, and you're left chasing shadows, their mystery pulling you deeper. You're weaving through the valley's heart now, the morning sun weak and pale, casting long shadows over frost-crusted grass as you search for the last relics of the forgotten tribe. The air's sharp with the scent of pine and damp stone, and your woolen tunic clings to your skin, heavy with the chill of a coming snow. You're hunting artifacts, broken blades, carved stones, anything to piece together why this tribe's name vanished while their legend lingered in Viking fears. Your knife's at your belt, a familiar weight, but it's your eyes you're relying on, scanning the earth for traces of a people who fought so fiercely. Every step feels like trespassing, the valley watching you like Ylva's flinty gaze, remember her prophecies. And you're half sure you'll stumble into a secret too big to carry. In the 9th century, archaeological remains of tribes like this, pottery, tools, burials, often held clues to their lives, though many were lost to time or looters. You pause by a crumbling stone circle, its slabs etched with faded runes, and kneel to brush away dirt. Your fingers find a small bone pendant, its surface carved with a spiral like the ones on Sigurd's spear. It's heavy in your hand, a whisper of the tribe's spirit, and you tuck it into your pouch beside the arrowhead from yesterday. These relics aren't just objects, they're the tribe's last words, and you're listening. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes buried offerings under stones to mark sacred ground, believing they'd guide ancestors' spirits back. You wonder if this pendant was one, left for a warrior or a god. Historians still argue whether these artifacts were everyday tools or sacred tokens meant to outlast their makers. You'd say it's both. Each piece feels like a bridge between the mundane and the eternal, grounding the tribe's defiance in something tangible. A rustle in the brush makes you jump, your hand on your knife, but it's just a fox, its eyes glinting before it darts away. Scaring yourself again, stranger? You mutter, laughing softly, and the sound feels too loud in the quiet. Tauren's humor, his soft-foot jabs, echoes in your mind, keeping you steady as you move deeper into the valley. You spot a shattered clay pot, its shards scattered like broken promises, and piece them together, revealing a faint warrior figure painted in red. It's like seeing Sigurd's face, fierce and unyielding, and your chest aches for a people lost to time. You climb a low hill, the village a distant smudge, and find a half-buried shield, its wood rotted but its iron rim intact. It's heavy, Viking-made, likely taken in battle, maybe from that clash you witnessed. You run your fingers over its dents, imagining the blows it took, and feel the tribe's strength, their refusal to break. You didn't go quietly, you whisper, and the wind answers, cold and sharp. The quiet man's betrayal feels far away now, but these relics bring the tribe closer, their story sharper in your mind. The valley's silence is heavy, broken only by the crunch of your boots and the distant caw of a crow. You gather the pendant, a pot shard, and a rusted spear tip, each a fragment of a puzzle you'll never fully solve. The tribe's gone, but their relics breathe, and you carry them carefully, feeling their weight as you head back. The sun's climbing, but the mystery lingers, pulling you toward one last reckoning with their fate. You're standing in the heart of the silent valley, the morning's frost melting under a weak sun as you trace the final threads of the tribe's forgotten fate. The air's crisp, heavy with the scent of damp earth and fading pine, and your woolen tunic feels thin against the chill that's more than just weather, it's the weight of a lost people. You're here to reflect on their end, piecing together the clues from relics, stories, and battles, trying to understand why this tribe, fierce enough to make Vikings tremble, vanished into shadow. Your pouch holds the bone pendant, arrowhead, and pot shard, remember those finds. Each a whisper of their defiance, but the valley's quiet now, its cliffs looming like mourners. Your boots sink into soft earth, and every step feels like a farewell. In the 9th century, countless tribes faded from history, their ends blurred by conquest, migration, or nature's cruelty, leaving only fragments for us to puzzle over. You sit on a mossy rock, the river's distant rush a faint heartbeat, and run your fingers over the pendant spiral, its curve echoing Ylva's tales of star-born warriors. Were they overrun, scattered by Vikings? Did they slip away, blending into other lands to save their spirit? The relics suggest a fight, shattered shields, buried offerings, but the silence hints at choice, a deliberate fade to protect their legacy. You're no seer, but you feel their presence, as if Sigurd's spear or Thorin's grin lingers in the air. A quirky tidbit surfaces. Some tribes left ghost villages, empty homes with fires still smoldering, to trick enemies into thinking they'd return. You glance at the village, its longhouses dark and still, and wonder if this was their final trick, a vanishing act to outweak time itself. Historians still argue whether these tribes were erased by force or chose to dissolve, their names traded for survival. You'd say it's both. Their relics scream defiance, but their silence feels like a plan, a secret kept from the world. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of snow, and you imagine the tribe's last days. Ylva chanting, Sigrid fighting, Thorin laughing through the cold. You didn't make it easy, you murmur, half expecting the wind to answer. It doesn't, but a crow caws nearby, and you smile, thinking of Thorin's soft foot jabs. Their humor, their fire, their blades, they're gone, but they've marked you, their story heavier than the relics in your pouch. You stand, brushing dirt from your hands, and feel a pang for Clara's steady hands, Maggie's fierce heart. Wait, wrong tale, but the echo of family feels the same. The valley's empty now, its secrets buried deeper than your finds. You think of the Viking clash, the traitor's runes, the starlit tales, and realize their fate isn't yours to solve, it's theirs to keep. You turn back, the village fading into the mist, and carry their mystery with you, a weight that's both burden and gift. The sun climbs, but the valley holds its breath, and you're ready to let it rest. The valley softens now, its cliffs blurring into the haze as you walk away, the river's murmur fading to a gentle hum. The tribe's gone, their spears silent, their fires cold, but their spirit lingers in the pendant at your wrist, the arrowhead in your pouch. You see Sigrid's fierce eyes, Thorin's grin, Ylva's steady hand, and feel their strength wrap around you like a warm cloak. The wind sighs through the pines, carrying their story into the stars, and you're safe, your breath slowing, your heart calm. Let the frost settle, the shadows fade, and the valley keep its secrets. The world's quiet now, the tribe's legacy a whisper in your dreams. Drift gently, let the night take you, and rest in their enduring silence. Sweet dreams, you've walked their path.